So here we go again. So this is theguardian.com, so the UK edition. And today it's under this sort of general title of friendship. And the big title at the top here says, Three's a crowd. What to do when you hate your friend's partner. And then below that is the other title. And it says, Can't stand your friend's other half. You could be walking into a minefield, warn experts. Here they share advice from owning jealous feelings to blowing off steam with the right person. So if you can't stand somebody, in this case it's your friend something or other. If you can't stand them, that means you don't like them, but in quite a strong way. And when it says your friend's other half, that's really saying their partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation is. It might be wife or husband or something too. And of course, a minefield, it's saying this isn't, if you're in a state of war, you're looking out for minefields, you don't want to walk into them. But in friendship or in other areas of life, a minefield in this sense, really, it's you don't sort of realize, but you're walking into a very dangerous situation and things could turn very serious very suddenly, unexpectedly. That's really what we mean by minefield in a sort of a friendship situation or outside of war. And so then it says, and this is what experts, and the following bit really is the experts' help and advice. It says advice there, and it says, and the first one is owning jealous feelings. So owning your own jealous feelings, and the other suggestion is blowing off steam. And so, Michael or Ruslan, what does this last one mean? Now, hopefully you remember. So, what does blowing off steam remember? Who thinks you can explain that the
I can
best?
explain in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Випустити пару. Uh,
I
it's
really? Okay.
yes. It's the same. If
Ah,
the same meaning in Ukraine, yeah,
really?
it's when you uh, become more
Mm.
calm. You become
Ah,
calm when
yeah,
you
yeah.
in this context speaking with other friends and
T-
a
t- t-
person
Talking with other friends, you mean? Is that what?
talking
Yeah, yeah,
talking with another
yeah,
person,
yeah,
and you become uh, more calm.
yeah.
Uh,
Calm, settled. Yeah, that's it.
yes. So
Mm.
to do something, yeah, to get rid stress or anger,
Mm.
so prevent big explosion. So
Yes,
because
yeah,
you keep more uh, annoying facts or annoying things inside your body and to
yeah, yeah.
prevent
Inside
this.
your mind, inside yeah, inside you. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Uh, uh, yeah, we could talk about this forever, couldn't we? But we better get on to the article. Okay, so with the right person. So I guess we could pick the wrong person. We could sort of, in a sense, when you're talking to people about issues and problems, you're being very open with them, and you've got to pick the right person. Don't just talk to anybody. Oh, and straight away, so these are swans, and they look as if they're at the seashore. And I don't think swans necessarily make their nests along the sea, but maybe this is maybe this is a very large lake. I don't know. So, but down the bottom, I noticed straight away it says "Swan Off." This is their title for this photograph. Whoops, for the photograph, and it says "Swan Off." Can you balance friendship and relationships? And it says who the photo is. So James Warwick, Getty Images. And the tricky bit really is what does swan off mean? And this is another idiom, really. So maybe I just ought to tell you. So if you swan off, or you say somebody else has swanned off, it means they just sort of they left, of their own. They made a decision to leave, perhaps without telling people, perhaps quickly, perhaps without anybody realizing, maybe sort of abandoning your responsibilities, possibly. Maybe you should have been doing something, you just sort of swanned off. You just left everybody to it. So there's little bit unclear exactly what you mean by swan off. Well, it means there's several different ideas in there, I guess. But so that's an interesting little idea. So we'll just go on to straight onto the article, otherwise we'll never get started at this rate. So Eleanor Thomas seems to be the writer or journalist who's written this article, put this article together, and just a couple of 2 or 3 days ago. 2 or 3 days ago. So are you okay to read, Michael? This little bit here.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe if I go to
I
about there. Okay. Yeah?
yeah, I would like to say about
Yeah. Mhm.
to blow off steam
Oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
one movie, very famous movie. I don't
Mm.
know, Italian actor Adriano Celentano
Okay,
uh,
good.
cut the wood,
Cut some wood, yes.
cut some wood to
Yeah.
blow off the
Oh,
steam.
I see.
You remember?
So to cut wood, that takes up lot of energy, doesn't it? So did they cut it with an axe?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Chop the wood,
Yeah,
chop the
that's
wood.
it. Chopped. That's it. So they chopped the wood
Uh,
there. Great. Good idea.
yeah.
So over to you
Uh,
then.
Years ago, my best friend fell in love with a man I disliked. He had a habit of looking over my shoulder when I tried to talk to him, and I thought he was too possessive. He spoke to her using a special high-pitched baby voice. And the worst thing was that my friend absolutely loved it and would baby talk right back, thinking that our friendship was bound to outla- out, outlive her infatuation.
Hmm.
I made it obvious that I disliked him. I very pointedly made plans without him, and when I was forced to spend time in his presence, I made so many private jokes. I was essentially talking to my friend in a horrible baby language all of my own.
Hmm.
To no one's surprise but mine, this behavior didn't have the desired effect. My friend started avoiding me. Her boyfriend won, and 8 years later, he's still winning. Winning. They're getting married next year, and I am not invited. Disliking a friend's partner is such a common experience, but it's hard to know what to do about it. Experts agree that if you suspect that your loved one is at risk of physical or emotional abuse from an intimate partner, you should let them know that you notice something is wrong. But what if your friend isn't in danger and you just feel their other half isn't worthy of them? What if he makes sexist jokes? Or worse, he's really into nutrition? What if he traps you in long, intensely detailed conversation about his triathlon training and breathes exclusively through his mouth? And breathes exclusively through his mouth.
Yes, that's good. Yes. There's a few sort of chunks of this are quite funny, I think. So it's you. There's obviously a sort of humor in here too. So okay, anything you want to ask about this little bit here? Anything you want to check the pronunciation or meaning? That's-
It's also idiom. He had a habit of looking over my shoulder when I tried to talk to him. Looking over my shoulder.
I think that is it's a that's an exact description. of what she was experiencing. So he didn't look into her eyes or at her face. Sometimes when you're talking to, I think different sort of cultures look at people differently. So but in the West, often we look at people's eyes, and then our eyes then flick around, perhaps to the mouth, well, perhaps not the mouth, but the face, maybe just around. But the eyes always sort of flick back to often to the face or the eyes of a person. But to look over someone's shoulder, I think that really is. I mean, they're just not looking into their eyes. I think that's what she's saying. So that was the thing that put her off of this guy, this man, I think. That seems to be the root of it to a degree, I suppose. I think that's what it means.
Mm.
Oh yeah, and there was something else, wasn't there? So what else do you think sort of put her off of him? So there's two ladies and a guy, isn't it? So that's what's happened here. So what's the other thing? So that's the looking over the shoulder. What else was there? That's right.
Speaking, what annoying her?
Yes, yes,
It's speaking like a baby, high pitched baby voice.
yeah,
It's
that's it. Yeah,
this.
yes. So he spoke to her using a special high-pitched baby voice. So, hello there, darling. How are you today? Something like that, I guess. So a stupid, childish voice, yes. But they both did it to each other, so both of them seemed to like it, didn't it? So it says, and she would talk back to him that way. It says, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And the other thing was, it says here, and I thought he was too possessive. So what does that mean when someone's too possessive?
In
Possessive.
my mind, possessive, it's like possessive voice. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's who very flexible, who very who so like authority and this possessive, it's
Yes.
above the authority. So this man was
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it.
not
So I've searched the
not
word. Yeah. Go for it.
maybe looks like submassive, not
Oh,
sub.
submissive. Yeah, there is. I suppose there is a
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
degree
yeah.
of that. But this is interesting. So, Danny, this is an example sentence. I looked at the word possessive in Collins's dictionary and it says, well, so someone who is possessive about another person wants all that person's love and attention.
No.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and this is an example sentence here says, Danny could be very jealous and possessive about me. So I suppose they act as if they own you a little bit. You get the
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
that you can't be away from them. Everything's about between the two of you in some way. So jealous, controlling, and you said dominating. Yeah, I think you had the right idea. So
No, no.
dominating. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, absolutely opposite meaning
Oh,
in
did you?
this.
I got the wrong
I,
idea. I got the wrong
yeah,
shift then. Oh, you were saying the other me. I did get that at the beginning, but then it seemed you reverted to the other direction. Okay, so that's interesting. So they've also the other words, so dominating and
yeah.
domineering. So domineering is often used in this sort of context. Oh, he was very domineering, or maybe occasionally she is very domineering, and that, as it says, very possessive. So it's just being very overly dominating. So possessively. That's the meaning we have here, I think. That's very good. So you stopped for half a second, I think, when you read that word. So
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
said it okay, I thought. So and you're okay with the meaning and everything? What does it
But
mean?
fate.
Sorry?
I don't know what fate. It's like fate. The
Um I can see why you might say that it's got fat right in the middle of it, or perhaps to do with fat. And
yeah,
maybe it is to do with that. But if you're infatuated, it's sort of it's a kind of love for somebody. But if you're calling it infatuation, you're basically saying, oh, it's an unstable love. It's a love that really they shouldn't have for this person. It's a sort of a love where you don't properly understand the person, you don't really know them. So if you've never met somebody, you've only seen them on the television, you might have some sort of an infatuation in that sense, or you might be infatuated with somebody at school you've never really ever spoken to. It's a kind of a childish love, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like a not true love, but
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
first infatuation, and then this infatuation can become
Mm.
a big love.
It can do, yes. But the thing is, of course, it says thinking that our friendship, so that's the two ladies, that she was thinking that their friendship was bound to outlive her infatuation. So if you outlive something, it means it just lives longer. So if a man outlives his wife, then he just lives longer than her. So maybe he lived 5 years longer and she died a few years earlier, perhaps. But in this case, would the friendship outlive her infatuation with this other man who spoke in a baby voice? But so so she's characterizing it as an infatuation when it's looking really, in truth, because she plans to marry this guy now. It's really love, we imagine, of course. So so really by saying infatuation, she's criticizing herself by admitting she's criticizing herself. She's owning her own error there, I suppose you could say. That's owning your own mistake in that sense. So sorry. Anything else there? I keep interrupting you. Sorry.
I know in this, I very pointedly made plans without
Mm.
him listening.
So when it says pointedly, does that make sense? You're a little bit quiet. Were you asking a question there? So when I very pointedly do something, what does that mean? Do you think?
Uh,
I think you probably know.
uh, very no.
Sorry?
I stress these plans
Yes,
very
yes.
pointedly, so it's obviously
Yeah,
many
that's the word. Yes,
many
obvious.
people see it's
Yeah.
seen for everyone.
Hmm.
Everyone see this what I do, what I do.
Exactly, yes. So if we put the word, just as you said obvious, so let's put the word obvious in there to replace that. So I very obviously made plans without him. And when I was forced to spend time in his presence, I made so many private jokes, etc., etc. There we go. That's it. You've got it. That's it.
And impossible.
But it's interesting here at the end of that sentence, he says, talking to my own friend in a horrible baby language of my own. So we don't really know if she was talking in a baby language to her, to, to the other lady. So the two ladies are talking in a baby language now. But what she's saying is all of my own. So maybe her making these sort of private jokes, they're another kind of baby language. I think that's kind of what she's saying. So in this second half of this sentence, I think she's admitting to another mistake that she sort of was doing exactly the same thing as he was doing, but in her own way. Does that make sense? I think you probably understood that really, really.
Made so many private jokes.
So the
I think
private
I think
jokes are the
I
other
think
language that she's invented. The private jokes, whatever these private jokes might be, we don't know. But
I think in my mind she made many private jokes. So it's mean the jokes about this man
yeah,
or
possibly,
partner.
possibly,
Yes,
probably, yeah.
and she did it. She sorry, she parodied or she caricatured
Characterized, you mean?
No, no, no.
Characterized? Oh,
Parodied, like
oh, paradigm.
parodied. Yes, him in his use this horrible baby language.
So, is that what you're saying? I misspelled it.
Like parody, like I don't know,
I
maybe
meant this word. My spelling's appalling. So, is this word here you mean paradigm?
no, no, no.
Oh, parody. Oh, sorry,
Parody,
parody.
yes,
Yeah, I got you.
parody,
Yeah, parody.
like now.
If there's a parody is making fun of something, I don't think I, I don't think she was
No, no, no,
exactly
no.
making a parody. Not really. That's my
No,
understanding. I mean, maybe you're right, but that's not the thing that I'm drawing from this. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
no, no. The parody, it's when in my mind, it's when you uh, speak or talk in the same way as another person and do the
Yeah,
same,
yeah,
speak with same intonation and
yeah.
pronunciation.
You're
And in this
mocking them by
mocking
making your
more,
own.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
In this
you're
case,
mocking them.
it's
Yeah.
mocking. In this case, I think she's mocking.
Hmm.
Grant in global language. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I think her making lots of private jokes is trying to make fun of him in a way, probably, yeah, against him. But it worked against her in the long run, I think, didn't it? Because we found
Yeah.
out later on that she doesn't see the friend anymore, and they're planning to get married. Yes. Mm. Anything else you noticed there? Want to ask about or talk about? Looks like we're going to overrun again. I'm sorry to say.
Uh, the last couple of sentences.
Hmm.
What if he makes sexist jokes or worse? He is really into nutrition. I don't understand. Really into nutrition. Nutrition is like baby nutrition.
I don't think it's baby nutrition
Yeah,
particularly.
I understand it's not about baby nutrition, but he's really into nutrition. It's like
If you're I suppose, in a sense,
inspired.
everyone's into nutrition. They like to eat food that does them good. But when they say, but men aren't often into nutrition. So it's a bit of an odd thing for a man to be into nutrition. When you say into it, you're really aware of your nutrition. You're thinking about it all the time. But to be really into it, it sort of means you're a bit sort of obsessed with it. You take it too far. You take it too far if you're really into it. Unless maybe it was his career, but I guess no. I think again, this is sort of another joke. This is another joke here. So it seems as if she'd sort of be she might accept the sexist jokes, might do. But the worst thing would be if he was really into nutrition. So he'd be unacceptable if he was too much into nutrition, overdid nutrition. So it's sort of a joke again, I think, really.
So I didn't catch this joke, to be honest. He's really into nutrition. So, or
So I
really,
guess to me, it doesn't sound very manly, I suppose, in a way. Um,
so in nutrition, it means that this man is or someone is very, it's extremely
mm.
deliberately or meticulously uh,
I think it's more
try
that
try to try to you try
uh, wh-
use change about
I
food.
think it's more. Just let me just interrupt you slightly. I think it's more that this is she could almost have put anything here. It could almost be anything. But I mentioned that because it doesn't sound very manly to me. Um, if she said something sort of a guys might be into, like cars or computer games or something, it wouldn't really work. but I think it's slightly sort of negative. It doesn't, it's not particularly manly, but it could almost be absolutely anything here, as long as it was slightly odd, slightly odd. So it's sort of a joke. It sort
Ah,
of
yes, yes.
works.
It's about diets, yes, about nutrition,
Oh, what the
about
word nutrition means. Oh,
yeah. No, no, I understand,
yeah.
but he's yeah, I understand about this. It makes sense when you said
It's
when
sort
you
of we're just sort of waiting for a joke here, and so it could be
it's
anything. And yeah, that does work. It's not
it's
very
common
manly.
through ladies who try to be in fit and try
Yeah,
to co
yeah, that's right. It's
try
probably
to
more appropriate for a lady, isn't it? Yes.
about calories, talking
Mm.
count the calories, try to yes.
But I suppose it has to be really. You have to put emphasis on the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
If it's just into nutrition, it's not really a joke. But yeah. But again, it could almost be anything. That little bit on the end there. Um, it's sort of a comment on society in a way too, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So with the pronunciations, um, I think the word. I think that's why we did this word at the beginning. So the possessive, I think you weren't expecting it. So you sort of said, so you just say it again, just to sort of practice it a little bit. So he was too possessive, maybe, as a practice. He was too possessive.
He was too possessive.
Yeah, that's
Possessive.
possessive. Yeah, possessive.
Possessive.
Yeah, that sounds
Possessive.
good. And then I think I noticed, I think it kind of worked out. I noticed there were lots of W's. Well, there are a
Worst.
good number of W's, so I can find them now. So worst, I think, was the first one I noticed. So
Worst.
wor
Worst.
yeah, worst.
Worst.
Where are the
Worst.
other ones now? There were a whole bunch of them together. So maybe I'm see
Without.
this one here, worthy. So worst, worthy,
Worthy. Worthy.
yeah, worthy,
Wo-
worthy.
Worthy.
Oh, that,
Worthy.
yeah, your last ones are better. Yeah, that's good. Worthy. And I did notice one as well. It just sounded a bit awkward when you said that one, that one there. So maybe we'll do that half a sentence, that whole sentence, I should say. So her boyfriend won. So he's talking about the the other her girlfriend's boyfriend. So her boyfriend won, and 8 years later he's still winning. So you'll go on that one.
Her boyfriend won, and 8 years later, he's still winning.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's good. A little bit sort of winning. So I think
Win,
sort of the NG sound was missing a bit on the end. So is it like winning rather than winning?
winning,
Yeah.
winning,
Oh, the last one was the
win.
best one. That's it. I think you
Yeah.
pretty much got that there, actually. So I'll just read it again, then maybe it's your go. So you're not quite confident enough on the one bit here. So it's almost as if there's a contest, isn't there, between the boyfriend and the her friend, and the boyfriend won the contest. So her boyfriend won, and 8 years later he's still winning. So you're go,
Winning.
you're go.
Her boyfriend won, and 8 years later, he's still winning.
Yeah, yeah, your winning was a lot better
Her
there. That was good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Oh, and there's another W down here. This is the
wrong,
one I did notice. So it's another NG on the end. So wrong, wrong.
wrong, wrong,
Yeah,
wrong.
wrong. Yeah, the last one was really good. Wrong. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yes. There were several worsts. I think you got that one.
Worse, worse, w
Yeah.
worse,
So yeah, worse, worse.
worse.
Yeah. Yeah, out of all of those words, I think that's the one I think needs more practice, I would say. So if you're going to write just one word down to practice, maybe probably just that one, I think. So, but yeah, a lot of these, so again, there's sort of it is an odd word, isn't it? And wrong's a bit tricky too, and maybe also sexist. I think maybe you weren't sure. So I think maybe you've read that out okay, but let's just practice it again. So just the word sexist. I think you stopped when you got to that word. Maybe you weren't expecting it. So if he makes what if he makes sexist jokes? Sexist.
Well, what if he makes sexist jokes?
Oh yeah, you're perfect on that. That's perfect, really. That's very, very good. Oh,
Sexist.
then down below there was this word here. That was unexpected too. So, what is that word? What does it mean, or what does it? How do you pronounce it? Are you sure?
I don't know. I think triathlon or
Yeah, it's
try
three
try.
something. Yeah.
Or yeah, it's Olympic. It's a sport competition when you I don't know. It's
Hmm.
maybe skiing
Yes, it's something like that. Yes, it's
and
definitely a
then
competition. Yeah,
shooting. Oh, man.
that's a good
It's
part.
three
Hmm.
different competition
That's right.
in a
It's
row.
three. Yeah, so it normally gets pronounced in the English way in English as triathlon. Triathlon.
Tri triathlon.
Yeah,
Or
I'll
it's
spell it
like
possibly.
running, cycling, or swimming, something.
Hmm. Yeah,
Multiple.
swimming, cycling, and running. Is it actually in the Olympics? I'm not certain.
No, Olympics biathlon. Why? I don't know.
Oh,
In
there's decathlon. So that's dec. That means 10. So it's decathlon. And there's and there was maybe the pentathlon. So that was 5. But I don't
yes,
know
but
which of them are in the Olympics or not. It changes every few years, doesn't it?
but
Oh, wow.
in winter Olympic Games it's biathlon when
Oh,
you're skiing and then shoot on the
yeah, that's true. There's a shooting, isn't it? That's fantastic, that is. The Scandinavians are unbelievably good at that. So
yeah.
let's see if they do any good this time. Next time, I should say. Not this time, next time. So sorry, Ruslan. We've taken absolutely ages. I think we took out. I think we really went through this article. Hopefully, it makes a bit more sense. These first couple of 2 or 3 paragraphs. So, Ruslan, are you still with us? Have you fallen asleep? Do you have
Yeah,
any
yeah.
questions for this little bit here?
Not yet, not yet. Yeah. You analyzed it, yeah, in a
Yeah.
clear way, yeah, and everything is okay.
Well, I'm glad you found it clear. Can you explain it back to me? It's quite tricky. That's a joke, by the way. That's a joke. Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's scroll on then. Sorry it's taken so long so far. So, and there's definite sort of few jokes here, little sort of funny comments, and this last little bit here, and he exclusively breathes. Oh, sorry, and breathes exclusively through his mouth. So that's again a little bit of an insult, a little bit funny at the same time. So okay. So over to you. So read as much or as little as you want. Over to you. Your go.
Yeah, okay. In the past, my tactic has been to simply avoid asking my friend about their relationship at all. I will refuse to say the hated partner's name out loud, as though I am a wizard. I am a wizard, and the partner is a Lord Voldemort. I also have a trick where I pretend I need the toilet every time I'm stuck talking to the partner in a group setting, but none of this behavior is particularly subtle, and I would like to find a more constructive way of coping with the situation. In in the interest of doing things differently, I spoke to therapists
Hmm.
and relationship experts about what to do when your friend loves someone that you really don't.
Sorry, I can interrupt you. I thought it was very good. I liked your therapists. That was good. Very good.
Mhm.
Therapists. Well done. Very good. I notice you're definitely trying to get the THs though. I can really see that. Well done. That's good.
Yeah.
So, now that I've interrupted you, should we just talk about this a little bit here? Anything you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
ask about
okay,
this
no
bit?
problem. Yeah. Yeah, I just realized that
Hmm.
something in the middle was not clear for me,
Oh yeah.
End is okay and the beginning as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, how about, yeah, I'm a wizard. It's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
wizard.
Hmm.
This
Yeah.
one,
So wizard, wizard.
wizard. It's
Yeah,
it's like
wizard.
it's like
Yeah,
witch,
I
or
think a wizard is a wizard a male witch, something like that.
it's actually
Hmm.
magical things. Yeah,
Yeah,
something.
so it's to do with magic, something with magic.
Yeah,
But she does
okay.
say as though, doesn't she? As though. So she's not saying she is a wizard, but so
Yeah.
in some way or other she's imagining. So if I were a wizard, maybe it would make sense. But yeah, as though.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Okay.
And
Good.
when it says, so she's got this weird thing of saying, "I refuse to say the partner's name out loud," which
Yeah.
is a bit odd, isn't it? Imagine not saying someone's name out loud, and she actually refuses to do it, which is a bit odd. And
Yeah,
maybe that's
actually
so
true.
weird. It's almost as if it's like a spell, as if their name is a strange spell, almost. As if like if you say abracadabra, it makes something happen.
Mm.
But in this case, it's someone's name. If I say their name, something weird will happen. That's sort of again, it's another sort of joke, but she's saying something sort of real. She's sort of self-mocking, I think, in a way. And I don't know who Voldemort. Um, but I would guess so. That last bit there, basically in French means death. So
Yeah.
it doesn't look like a good name. I think this
Sorry,
must be an imaginary character in
sorry,
a
you
film.
don't know.
Yeah.
You are really don't know who is Lord Voldemort?
Ah, well,
It's
so you know. So who is it then?
it-
Who is it? No,
it's
I
about
don't.
Harry Potter. It's about Harry Potter.
Ah,
It's
yeah.
the bad
He's a bad person, is he?
person, yes. And in this
Voldemort.
Harry
Mm,
Potter's world,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can. It was forbidden to call the name, this name, pronounce this name.
I
Yes,
see. I see.
and
Ah.
this means so. In this
Oh,
text,
is this him down here? Is that is that his face?
yeah.
Oh wow, it does look. Yeah, he looks a bit evil, doesn't he? Somehow, but he may be being hard on the guy. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're not meant to say his name, I see. So that it makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. So and now then she talks about another trick. So often what wizards do are sometimes talked about as or explained as tricks. Their spells may also be called a trick. So yeah. Anything else there in this first little bit that you've read out? I can't hear you, Ruslan. Maybe you're muted.
But how about, yeah, I'm stuck
Yeah,
talking to the partner in a group setting.
yeah, yeah. So that's the second half of that sentence, isn't it? So let me read the whole sentence then. So the whole sentence is, I also have a trick where I pretend I need the toilet every time I'm stuck talking to the partner in a group setting. So another little trick is, for some reason, she goes to the toilet. This is crazy. Whenever she's in with a group of other people, and they're
Mhm.
presumably talking. So,
In this
so
way, she
it's a bit
actually,
nutty. It's quite strange.
yeah, actually, she just don't want to
Hmm.
speak with her friend, yeah, and she
Her friend's
tells her,
partner. Yeah, her friend's
yeah,
partner.
her friend's partner, yeah,
That's
and
how I take it. Yeah. Carry on.
okay, and she just run away from him in this way, yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to tell him that I need toilet, and yeah,
yeah.
okay,
So maybe it's because when she was last in the situation, she lost her friend because the baby talk business and they didn't get on for some reason. So she avoids. I guess she's avoiding that person in case she doesn't like them. And maybe that's what it is. Let's pretend I don't meet them. Let's never meet them, and then I can't hate them. I suppose
mm.
that's taking it to an extreme, of course. So she's obviously going to meet them. Yeah, I think that's the only way it makes sense to me, anyway.
Yeah. Then I would like to ask about pronunciation of
Hmm.
subtle, or
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. That's it. You've
yeah,
got it. Subtle. That's the word. Subtle.
subtle.
Yeah. It doesn't
It's
look
like
like subtle.
something
Yeah.
small, not like a small. It's
Hmm.
mm, s-
It can be
like
something small. It can be something small in
it's
a sense. Um, when you're talking about something subtle, but so no, I was going to say, so this letter in the middle is basically silent. So
yeah,
that's what's confusing, isn't it?
yeah,
Subtle. Yeah, it's just subtle. The T does nothing. The B does nothing. So let's put it into the dictionary. So if something is subtle, it might be something that's quite slight. So here we go. So subtle adjustment. A subtle adjustment is a small adjustment. So not a big one, but just a
uh,
small one.
okay,
So a subtle approach. So you don't face a problem immediately face on. You edge up to someone to their side and say, "Hello there, how are you? And what's happening? And do you remember that we've got this little bit of a problem?" So that might be a subtle approach to dealing with a problem.
okay. Just
Yeah.
not if you have something to say to someone, you just
Mm.
not straight away just
Subtle.
run
Yeah.
to the person to
Yeah.
say
You
everything
run
what you
around the
think.
edges of it, but then you eventually get to it in a clever way. You don't sort of go
Yeah,
straight into it. You do it gently, sort
yeah,
of.
gently, just looking for the right time to say it. Yeah, for
Yeah.
example, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Um,
Appropriate moment. Yeah,
but
we
even
can say.
then, even if it's the right time, it's the way that you're saying it, if it's the right or the wrong time. But so let's quick look at the as an adjective here. So let's listen to them say it just once though. I can't hear anything. So that it should be subtle.
Subtle.
Oh, she's been very slow. So something that is subtle is not immediately obvious or noticeable. So maybe someone has subtly changed the lighting in a room. Sometimes you can adjust the brightness of a light bulb by turning a little knob. Maybe someone just subtly changed the lighting or something like that.
Yeah, okay, it's
A
like
very
an
slight
adjective. Yeah,
change. Slight
yeah.
change. Yeah, yeah, as an adjective. Yeah. So.
As an adjective.
A subtle person, this is the one I was really mainly using, or the way they use it in the sentence. So, a subtle person cleverly uses indirect methods to achieve something. So, you don't go direct, you go indirectly to a sort of problem out, or deal with something, or talk about something. So, in our sense that we were using it, if someone is subtle, you could also say they're being a bit crafty, or cunning, or sly, or designing even here. Um, each of these ones here, crafty, cunning, sly, designing, it's slightly negative. Each of these, to my mind, is slightly negative. You're being cunning, it's a little bit negative in it, and crafty is negative. But subtle to me is a bit more in the middle. It's not necessarily bad. You're being sort of gentle, maybe, to look at something. You're taking at something more gently, I would say. There's nothing, no sort of, to my mind, there's no negative inference. whereas each of these are
To
slightly
interrupt you,
negative.
Tony,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
did you say something? Can you last one middle on a ball, or how did you say it?
Say again. Say again. I'm not quite sure what you said actually.
Did you say something? Yeah, when you explained it to me, yeah, there was something.
Oh, a
It,
middle way.
it's
Oh,
like a middle in a ball or something. No, there.
what I was maybe I didn't explain it correctly.
No.
Correctly. So with the word crafty, if you're being a bit
Yeah,
crafty, it's slightly negative. You're being a little bit underhand. You're being a
underhand.
little
Okay.
bit naughty, maybe. And similarly with cunning, you're being a little bit too clever if you're being cunning, to my mind anyway, and sly. They're only
Mhm.
very slightly negative things. Whereas
Mhm.
with the
Yeah.
term subtle, it's more in the middle. It's not being bad or naughty or not being very good about something, or very gentle. It's just,
Just
it's more in the
can we?
middle. It's not particularly bad. It's not bad, but it's not good either necessarily. Does that make sense? Whereas each of these
Yeah.
words are slightly negative to my mind, or at least there's a negative connotation to each of these words, I would say. With subtle, it doesn't really mean that to me, but maybe I'm wrong, of course, I suppose. So saying subtle colours, so you might talk about colours or sounds being muted, so subtle, or soft sounds or muted, soft or subtle sounds or softer sounds, faint and subdued. So these words too mean in a different meaning.
Yeah, but
If it was a
it is
taste or a sound or a colour.
it is okay to say as well accurately, yeah, for it like us
Say that again, sorry.
accurately, accurate, accurate,
If something is subtle, it's also
yeah,
accurate. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, no,
No. Subtle
no,
doesn't really mean accurate as such.
accurate,
It
no,
more
okay.
means gentle, taking something, being not being too direct, being indirect.
Mhm.
A small change. It's these sorts. It's a small change. It doesn't necessarily mean anything else other than that, I would say.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that's got it. Uh, won't go any further on that one, I think. So, yes, subtle. So, so let's just do that sentence maybe. If I read that sentence, it's not too long a sentence, is it? So it's just down to there. So I'll read it back. I'll read it too. Then it's your go maybe. So, but none of this behaviour, the behaviour we've just been talking about, we've just been reading about up here. So, but none of this behaviour is particularly subtle, and I'd like to find a more constructive way of coping with the situation. So the situation is that when she meets her girlfriend's partners, she doesn't seem to like them and she sort of falls out with them. That's my understanding. And what she's also saying is that, but none of this behavior is particularly subtle. So all these things where she pretends to go to the toilet every time she's might talk to her partner's friend or boyfriend or whatever, that isn't very subtle. After a couple of times, it gets blinking obvious that this person is rather odd. They never seem to want to talk to me. In fact, they end up going to the toilet all the time. So it's not very subtle. After a couple of times, it's rather obvious, I suppose. But she wants to find a way of dealing with this situation or coping with the situation. Coping is the same as dealing, you could say, in a more constructive way, more constructive. So really, if she's disappearing every time has to talk to the person, if she disappears to go to the toilet, that's being a bit destructive, really. So she wants to find a way to be more constructive, to build friendships. And it says that so she spoke to a therapist who deals with or is very good with relationships, understands how relationships work, I suppose. So I spoke to a therapist. Sorry, I spoke to therapists and relationship experts about what to do when your friend loves someone that you really don't. So, okay. So, do you want to read the next bit too? Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Over to you.
Ask yourself, why do you dislike this partner? Uh, the, psy- um, the psychotherapist and conflict mediator Gabriel Rifkind suggests that when you notice yourself turning against a friend's partner, you should try to unpack those feelings
Hmm.
rather than assuming that you are entirely justified in your dislike. We should look inside ourselves and think, why are we having difficulty? Maybe a fear they will take our friend away from us, she
Hmm.
says.
Yes. 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 Well done. That's nice. That's nice. Do you fancy just rereading that little bit there? So maybe I'll read it to you first, though. So,
Okay.
maybe we fear they will take our friend away from us, she says. Do you want to just read that bit
Yeah.
back? There you go.
Maybe we fear they will take our friend away from us.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice. That's nice. Okay. So, anything you want to ask about that bit there? Any-
How about a psychotherapist? Did I say it correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's even better. I would say you've read it. You said it
Okay.
twice now, and I think the second one was even better than the first one. Yes. So yeah. So psycho,
Psycho.
psycho, and then therapist, and that's basically exactly what you're saying. So yeah, psychotherapist.
Tony, how
I
about
always look at this and think, oh, is that physio? My problem is it physiotherapist or psychotherapist? When I look at it quickly, and I have to look at it for half a second longer and make sure which one it is.
how about medita,
Mm. Yeah, you're
med,
pretty much there. So let's actually redo that line maybe
okay,
suggests. So the word you're talking about is mediator. This one is mediator. So a conflict mediator. So that's someone's job who tries to sort out um, an argument or some sort of conflict. So a mediator is someone who goes between two people having a disagreement about something and tries to sort it out. That's what a mediator is. They sit between two people, maybe literally in a chair or perhaps on a phone or something, and they're
yeah,
trying to understand what the problem is and sort it out. So let's practice this sentence then. So the the psychotherapist and conflict mediator Gabrielle Rifkind suggests that. So it's your go.
the psychotherapist and conflict mediator Gabriel Rifkin suggests that,
Yeah, that was brilliant. Well done. That was really good. So you
except
got the
the
name
surname.
Rifkind. Yeah, that's tricky name. It's not obviously. So
Yes,
it's got the word kind on the end, isn't it? So you want to say
yeah,
kind, but as a name, this is a surname. It doesn't get pronounced that way, so it's not very common. I think it's a Scottish name originally. Well, it tends to be a Scottish name, I think. So yeah, Rifkind, Rifkind, how most people pronounce it. Yeah, that was fantastic. Well done. Really good. So
yeah,
maybe
but
just maybe that word
uh,
once more. So
okay.
psychotherapist,
Psycho,
psychotherapist.
psychotherapist,
Oh, it's had
psychotherapist.
it
No?
sounds so the th is tricky because it's in the middle of the word. So
Mm,
yeah, so
Okay, let me
So,
say it again.
mm,
Psychotherapist, no?
yeah, I think that's better. And once more, so
Psychotherapist.
psychotherapist, you'll go.
Psychotherapist.
You're not that one, but the one before that was basically good enough, I would say. So I
Oh
think we'll
yeah,
leave it at that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when we do something repeatedly, it's easy to just get tired, and then we start making more and more mistakes. So,
yeah. True.
but that was a very good. I liked how you read that. It was fantastic. So that's a great name. I like that. Gabrielle. That's a great name. I've never been out with someone called a Gabrielle, so I must do that at some point. I'm being silly there, of course. Okay, that. Oh, so yeah, so we read that. Anything else you want to ask about there, or in that little bit you read?
Not really.
Okay.
How about uh, you should try to unpack those feelings. It
Yeah.
actually means unpacked in this way, like
Mm.
to share, yeah, to share.
Um, I I don't know if it really means exactly that, but you're right. That would help. It would help to do that, to share it with somebody else. But I think when you say you should try to unpack it, you could do it on your own. When they say unpack, I suppose it's like having a suitcase of your, going on holiday, you've got a whole suitcase.
Yeah,
But in that
yeah,
suitcase, you've got all your problems in there, and they're all packed in there. Maybe it's hiding in one of the corners or something. So you open the suitcase up, and you go through it in detail, and you try to unpack, well, this caused that, that caused this, and I didn't like them because they did this to me. Oh, but maybe they did that to me because I did this originally. So that's sort of unpacking the problems or the issues. So it's going through it. If you unpack something, if you unpack a problem or you unpack what happened, maybe you might say, but normally it's unpack those feelings, I suppose. It tends to get used in the sort of psychology sort of situation, or psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, I guess, might use this more than anything. So it's going through in detail, in more analyzing. Maybe analyzing is the best way of putting it. So maybe just put the word analyze in there, might explain that word more.
yeah, yeah. Actually, better yeah to use analyzing those.
But I guess it's more sort of, if you say analyze, it does sound a little bit academic and
Mm,
sort of a bit alien. So when you say unpack, I think most people accept that as a nicer way of putting it. So it sort of gets, when you say analyze, it sounds like you're on a it sounds like you're on a couch and the psychologist has hypnotized you and they're trying to tear you to pieces. And
yeah.
unpack sounds nicer,
Uh,
sounds gentler,
Tony,
sounds more
for
subtle.
example,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like a subtle, yeah. But
Mm.
for example, if we put uh, relief, relief,
Well, that's the overall idea. Once you've done the unpacking, it should hopefully give you some
um,
relief, but it might take a month or something, or a week or something,
okay, okay.
because sometimes your brain has to work, your unconscious, your subconscious, or whatever, has to work through some of those issues or problems.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, okay, thanks.
Sometimes it is not obvious, so you don't really know why you've gone through the problems. You don't think you've really made any progress. But just going through them is progress, even if you don't feel you've made any progress. So, okay, we'll better just carry on, otherwise we'll psychoanalyze each other. Also, I liked how when you some of these bits here, when you've read it out, you've really got the th, you've really got the quite clearly. That's good. But at the same time, you do miss it some places. But that's because we're learning,
You
isn't it?
know what? I realized that when I read something and when
Mm,
I see a th sound, I
mm.
need extra air in my
Yeah,
chest to
to
say it.
say it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I don't know.
Um, Well, I can understand why you're saying that. Yeah. So with some of the THs, there's two ways of making the th sound. There's a sort of short, there's a simple one, and there's the one where it's more from the throat. And maybe it's the one from the throat where you need a bit more air in your chest, maybe.
Yeah, and you know what?
Mm,
When I
mm,
give more air to this sound,
yeah,
and for the next word,
yeah,
I'm lack
yeah,
of
yeah.
air, you
You've
know,
used all
and
your oxygen.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, and
suffocating.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
difficult
I
to make
appreciate. Yeah, yeah. That
good
is.
pronunciation. Yeah,
It's another little detail you have to learn. I suppose you think in terms of, um, I suppose at the beginning of a sentence, take a good deep breath,
yeah, at the
and then
beginning, but
work
when
out
it's
where you
middle,
need to breathe sometimes.
yeah,
So probably, I don't really know for certain, but probably I would have, if I was thinking about the breathing, I would have tried to say all of those words, take a bit of a breath
yeah,
there, because you can sort of. Yeah, I think when you come to a name, it's sort of a natural break there, isn't it? I think. So there are certain sort of natural breaks, even though there's no comma there or anything. I'm not so yeah. So yeah, in time you'll work out where you can breathe. I suppose for most British people, when they're speaking English, it just comes naturally. They can't explain. I certainly can't necessarily explain where and when you can breathe. Because you can't necessarily do a breath where there's a comma. You can't necessarily do it, but I mean, maybe you can while you're sort of learning until you feel more confident, I guess. But you're doing okay. You're doing okay. I mean, it's not, you're getting it. You are getting it, so don't worry too much or anything. Um, so just as a reminder then, so what does a mediator do, or what is a mediator? Or,
mediator. It is actually the
mm,
specialist
mm,
in a relationship between a couple, or it can be like
mm,
a person who help
yeah.
you to understand yourself, for example, in some difficult time.
Okay. Okay. I see. What you just said, I would say some of that is really the physiotherapist.
Is
I would
it,
say. I think some of that. So the psycho, as I say physio, the psychotherapist sort of has the deep understanding of what our motivations are. Sometimes we don't know why we do things, but the psychotherapist is likely to know. So, and I suppose, so they understand our hidden motives, as what I would, as a quick way to explain what they do. But a conflict mediator, I would say, so really you could have a conflict mediator where there's a strike. Maybe there's a factory and all the people who work there are on strike, and really what it comes down to is they just don't like the boss. Maybe they're paid
mm,
enough, but they just can't get on with the boss. And so, really, what they might need is a conflict mediator. So, the conflict is sort of like it could be the word conflict could mean war, people could be dying. But most of the time, in this sort of sense, well, in this particular sense here, it just means disagreement or argument. So, in that sense, is a conflict.
yeah,
And a
in
mediator,
this
somebody goes
sense,
between
yeah,
two people who are having, it could be a simple disagreement about something.
yeah,
Maybe
but
someone's buying a house or someone's selling their car and something's gone wrong with the car and there's some sort of a disagreement they're having. You charged me too much. The car went wrong. It broke down a day later. And so there you might need a conflict mediator. You probably wouldn't get a conflict mediator to sort out that sort of a problem. But so does that make sense? Conflict mediator.
yeah,
So
yeah,
any
yeah.
kind of a problem, as in disagreement or perhaps an argument, and they're trying to sort it out. But in this particular area, it's really to do with relationships, I suppose, because of what we're talking about here. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
but in different
mm,
area, conflict mediator, it can he can
mm,
uh,
mm,
work in like rights, as you said, and it can be like some country mediator between two countries. Yeah.
Yes, it could be. Yes.
Okay. And for example, middleman, it is actually some a bit related to this mediator or no?
Middleman, did you say?
Middleman, yeah. It's actually the same, no?
Um, on the whole, not. I would say no. So, but it could mean, but it could mean that. So, if you say middleman, it sounds more like someone who is buying and selling something. So, if I go to the shops and buy some apples,
Ah, yeah.
who is the middleman there might be the person who sold the apples to the shop. So
Okay.
the middle, so the middle, so with apples, a farmer is growing them somewhere in an orchard in his field. A middleman comes along, buys the apples, and then drives them in a lorry, perhaps to a supermarket, and the supermarket then sells them. And the middleman is the man who bought them from the farmer and took them to the shop. So that's a funny example I've given there as a middleman.
It's actually yeah
Yeah,
about
that's what
the
most people understand
outcome.
by that.
Yeah.
So say
For
again.
middleman, it's about outcome. Yeah, but
Outcome.
mediator, it is about just like help people to reach the calm.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
not
that's
calm.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Yeah. So there's very simple meaning here. Mediator is a person who mediates, especially between parties at variance. So variance means disagreement. So you're not the same. If you vary with someone, you disagree with them in some regard. So, so
Yeah,
mediates. Does that help? It just uses a different version of the same word, doesn't it? But there is the
yeah,
idea that it's going between different parties. So it's a bit like Iran and the USA having well, maybe even just Trump having a terrible war at the moment, aren't they? And there's a mediator there. And in that case, it's the Pakistani government. I think in particular, maybe in the Pakistani government's leader. Does that make
yeah,
sense? So he's coming between the
yeah.
two and
It's
trying to sort it
actually
out.
yeah, it's
You
actually
could
the
there is just an idea of a middleman, but it's not.
yeah.
But when you say middleman, it's more this idea. I think of. Let's pop it in here. So you're going to say something. I interrupt you. So yeah, carry on. I'll tap in middleman then.
To my mind, mediator, it is about
Mm.
to reach agreement, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. What? Yeah. Mm.
middleman, it is about the money and the outcome, and yeah,
Mm.
like this, about the bargaining.
I th I think most of the time it would mean that. Yes, I think so. So I've just tapped in middleman. Let's see what it comes out with. Yeah. So they have it as a title, a counter, so a noun. So a middleman is a person or company who buys things from the person who produce them and sells them to the people who want to buy them. So that's one version. So it'd be interesting to see. Look here in negotiation. So a middleman is a person who helps in negotiations, which is sort of mediating. So yeah, they have it down here as mediating. So you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. In fact. So between people who are unwilling to meet each other directly. So really, you could say that the Pakistan leader is actually a middleman. You're probably more right than I am, because I don't think, oh, I'm not sure. I think maybe the Americans and the Iranians were very unwilling to meet each other. So
Unwilling.
unwilling to
Yeah,
meet each
okay,
other because they had
it's
such
actually
violent
possible.
disagreements. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
they both mean the
it's
same
possible.
thing, sort of thing.
Okay. but we never would say that
Mm.
mediator can dealing with selling and buying, yeah, and
I wouldn't say a middle. I wouldn't say a med. The middleman can mean several different things. So someone who comes between, but it
yeah,
mainly tends to mean, I would say, mainly me. It more means in most people's minds, a sort of buys products to sell them to somebody else, a middleman. But with mediator, the
mm,
main meaning there is about trying to get different people to agree to something or to
agreed.
come
Yeah,
to
yeah.
agreement, to end an argument, to come to agreement. But yeah, you're right. Because they're between, they could be selling apples as well at the
Mhm.
same time. So maybe they
Yeah.
mean exactly the same things. Let's come down to the Greek or the Latin. So it'd be interesting. So there's the main meaning, I would say. No, it just means maker of girdles. Isn't that amazing? It means to make girdles.
Mm.
Wow. So girdles is something that women used to wear in the 1950s to make them thin. So, so how on earth is that? But being that this was the 1450s, so a girdle back then probably meant is something completely different. Just clothing you wore around your middle, I would suspect, but I don't really know to be honest. So maybe we'll leave that now. I think we've done it to
Mhm.
death. That one, we've really
Yeah.
done that to death now. So it's 7:30. So if anyone wants to go, Michael, if you want to shoot off, it's okay. You don't have to hang on. You may have fallen asleep. I know it's quite late there. Um,
I'm here.
so do you have anything to say, Michael, about this? Maybe we'll leave it here for the moment, and maybe we'll end the class and we can talk about it more general sense if you want to. Anything you want to say about what we've just read or anything here?
It's actually a good idea. We can speak about something a
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
we can talk about this or anything else. Okay, so let me just end the class at this juncture, or the recording even.